Hey guys, it is Monday and it's time for Tech Tip Q&A. I'm glad you can be here today. It's a very chilly day here in Texas. I'm waiting for people to show up and hopefully my connection will stay good. Hi, Creative Me DK. I'm so glad you are here. Welcome. And let me wait for Christina to get here. And there she is. Good morning. Now, Christina, you got to let me know if you can't see me or if I disappear, and then you can take over.
Yeah, poor Sarah. She's got a real weather situation down there. No, you are good.
Okay, good. That's
So
exciting.
let's hope it stays that way.
Yay! I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm Sarah Walworth.
I'm Christina McGrath. We're knitting tech editors.
And hi from Denmark. It's -6. Oh, yeah. It's only 5 degrees Fahrenheit here, which is really bitter cold for Texas. We got a little bit of a blizzard. Hi, Amy. I'm so glad you're here. Ruth. Oh, everyone's here today. So glad you guys are here. We have just a few questions to answer. So if you have something that you want to ask us, please throw it into the comments. Hi, Sarah.
Yeah, if you guys have questions while we're talking, just throw them in.
We are really excited. So just to recap, we come on live every third Monday at noon Eastern to answer your questions. We're tech editors and we love to help out knitwear designers and other tech editors and answer questions and generally give our opinion about things. And we hope that you guys get some help from our talks. So how are you doing, Christina?
I'm okay. We also are looking at some bad weather this week. And so I kind of have to rearrange my week based on what days will be drivable and what days will not be
Yeah.
drivable.
So
Um,
it's definitely winter in the Northern Hemisphere, and
mm.
we're getting a cold snap for sure. So hi,
Yeah, it's
Samba
freezing. It's
Knits.
been freezing. It's super, super cold outside, which makes it super cold in my house. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
our house is like a big breeze.
Yep. I
Cold.
know. It's super cold. So we're going to jump right into a really important question that we got. Christina, are you ready?
Sure, you want to ask it?
I'll ask it, and I know you have some notes to answer. Hi, Jesse. I'm glad you're here. So the question that we got that's really important that we love to address is, do you need to use two different conversion rates for converting inches to centimeters? Do you use 2.54 when converting body measurements and then 2.5 when converting fabric measurements? I think you would have to use 2.54 if you use a tape measure to measure your body. It's a small difference, but it's a difference. And this comes from Judy, who's Friendly Tech Editor. It's very nice of her to send us this question. So this is really important, but let's cover first, what is she referring to as far as conversion?
So most patterns are written with a gauge, designed with a gauge of 4 inches equals 10 centimeters, which is a 2.5 ratio between centimeters and inches. It's not the exact ratio that you get on your tape measure, which is 2.54. But because the pattern is written at a gauge, 4 inches equals 10 centimeters, the 2.5 ratio used to convert those numbers is what is going to give you the actual real measurements, because it's how the design is written.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, and because so it is the right way to convert measurements on your pattern if you are using a 4 inch equals 10 centimeters gauge. And most of the size charts that we use the 2.5 ratio also. So when you are giving all the measurements on your pattern will be converted with 2.5. When you are giving the size on your pattern, like to fit bust 30-inch, 32, 34, 36, etc., those numbers, you also want to use a 2.5 ratio, and they will be true because it's how the pattern is designed. So when you go to take your own measurements, if you're taking your measurements in centimeters, you will still use a fabric tape measure and measure your body with true 2.54 centimeters. And you can still take your 2.54 body measurements to that pattern and size yourself based on the numbers in the pattern, and it will be correct because the pattern is written to 2.5. So it all has to be 2.5, but it's still going to be the actual measurement. Like if you want this, say your measurement is 40, oh, we're doing centimeters. Say your measurement is 100 centimeters and you want a pattern that's going to be like 110 centimeters is the size you want the garment to be. If you took your measurements and got 100 based on 2.54 ratio and the pattern says 110, but it was based on 2.5, it doesn't matter because the 2.5 ratio that got the 110 in the pattern is correct. So your garment will be 110 centimeters. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to take your measurements differently. You just need to know, you know, that's why we tell everybody you really should work your patterns this way and use a 2.5 ratio because your gauge that you designed the pattern on is based on 4 inches equaling 10 centimeters, which
Exactly.
is a 2.5 ratio. I know that's like a really long, convoluted answer. I'm like trying to go slow, but no, you don't. I think the biggest takeaway from this as far as pattern designing is, no, you don't need to use a different conversion rate when you put the body sizes on your pattern.
Right.
You don't. You do the same thing. You do the same thing.
So,
and it will be right.
Exactly. So the key here is to remember what you're starting with. And if you're someone who's science or math minded, you might think, oh, this is not accurate enough. Like the real accurate ratio is 2.54 inches to 10 centimeters. However, in knitting, to be more accurate, we actually need to be less precise because the ratio is not 2.54 inches to 10 centimeters in knitting. It's 2.5 inches to 10 centimeters. So you got to keep that ratio when you're doing conversions and when you're
4 inches to 10 centimeters, 2.5.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The weather.
It's the weather. It's little sleep. 2.5 inches to 2.5 centimeters to 1 inch. I'm going to get it right like the 5th time I say it. I'm so sorry. 4 inches to 10 centimeters. 2.5 centimeters to 1 inch. Did I get it right that time? Maybe I shouldn't be talking about math and leave it to you today. Okay, so the key is you got to go with what you started with, so what your base is. And so Ruth has a question, and I think I already was heading there. If I'm converting with 2.5 and rounding quarter centimeter results down to a full centimeter, is that okay as long as I'm being consistent? So we'll talk about rounding in a second, Ruth, because I think rounding is important, and when you do it is important.
There was another question we got earlier on,
yeah,
too, so we'll have to address
we'll get
those.
there too. So here's the thing is, when you're designing, you need to figure out you have stitches. Let's say you have 300 stitches, and you divide that by your gauge to get the measurement at the bust, let's say, for instance. And you would divide that out and have it be all the way out to a lot of place values. And then you would round that. You would take that inch measurement and convert it using the 2.5 ratio. And then round the two systems. So you don't do rounding before conversion.
No, get your true numbers first.
Get your true,
then round them both.
Exactly. So
don't convert to centimeters based on a rounded inch measurement.
No, because then it definitely won't be accurate. So you have two options. You can either convert from the inches, or you can use your gauge in inches and your gauge in centimeters and use those numbers to find the measurements in the two systems. Then once you have the actual measurements out to a whole lot of place values, let's say whatever, 34.5735, then you would round that to the nearest quarter inch and half centimeter. And why do you do that? If you look at a ruler, this is really fascinating to me because, first of all, you can only go so small with inches and centimeters and have knitters be able to actually measure. If you look at a ruler, if this is half an inch, a quarter of an inch is almost exactly the same. They're really, really super close. So to round, you want to round to those increments
Because
of
they're as close to each
the,
other as they can be. It's the
exactly.
closest you can get to
Right.
making sure that whether someone is using inches or centimeters, they're going to get the same size.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
there's a few ways to round. And you have to decide, Ruth, you need to be consistent, right? With your conversion and with your rounding process. And this is where a spreadsheet is incredibly useful because you can use the M round function to go to a half of a centimeter into a quarter of an inch. And the reason why we use those increments is because that's really how, if you're measuring your body or you're measuring a flexible knit fabric, that's where you're going to be able to get to. You're not going to go to an eighth of an inch or a quarter of a centimeter. It's going to be to those, probably the smallest increment that you're going to be able to measure.
So she says, for example, 4.5 inches times 2.5 equals 11.25 centimeters. Is 11 or 11.5 more accurate? Does it matter which one I use? That's like when it's right in the middle, man. You know?
I know. Okay, well,
I don't know.
I round up.
I would go up. I would round up.
Yeah, so we're looking, this is definitely something math and science. And when you get to 2.25, anytime you get to that 5, you got to round up. And if you use a spreadsheet, it will round it up at that point. If you do an M round.
I think
you have a question?
Yeah, does anyone think we did that badly? I think we got that question good. Let us know if you still have questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question here that I think we can answer quickly that would be helpful to what we're talking about. She says,
Yes.
What's a good way to learn Excel really well so we can use it for tech editing and grading? I feel I need to go back to the basics.
Okay.
There are like a gazillion Excel tutorials online, but Edie Ekman has that are specific to designing knitwear and specific to making spreadsheets for that purpose. And I'm sure, I mean, hers is really good. I'm sure there are others similar that way too. The grading courses, the grading course that Sarah teaches with Melissa and Julie, they also teach you how to use spreadsheets for grading. So, you know, it would behoove you, I think, to find tutorials online that are specific to knitting and grading, because that's what you're going to be using them for. So there might be some tidbits or some tricks in there that you're not going to learn somewhere else. That's what I would suggest.
I started with Marnie McLean's.
Oh, right. Marnie McLean.
Oh, Ruth says, off to go correct my sock circumference conversions. Melissa told me to
round up and I grumbled.
Yay, Melissa. Melissa Metzbauer is an excellent
That's so
tech
funny
editor.
that we all agree on that. That's so funny.
Yes. I will put some names in the chat.
B, I'll put it in. Don't mind my close-up face here.
And Albina from Ireland says, oh my goodness, I can't stay but popping in to say hello. Thank you for making these wonderful videos. You're very welcome. It's a lot of fun. We enjoy being on here. It's something we really look forward to. Okay, so back to Excel tutorials to learn how to use that software. And it also applies to other software. If you don't have Excel, you can use it for Sheets, Google Sheets, and for the equivalent in the Apple software. Ooh, that was a lot of noise.
Sorry.
Okay, so Marnie McLean has an excellent series of tutorials where she actually gives you a spreadsheet that you can use to get started. She is also where I started because I needed to find the way that I think about spreadsheets and stuff. I needed to find my own way, and so I started there and then developed my own. Sister Mountain is another series of blog posts that teaches how to use spreadsheets for grading. And I would highly recommend you find those.
I think on
And
Instagram is Sister Dot Mountain.
yes,
I think is her handle on Instagram.
and I have found that her information is fabulous and very useful, and she's put it all for free on her blog. So start there and see if you can't kind of get your feet wet. Here's the thing about Excel is there's always new formulas to learn. There's always new things to learn. Um, there is quite a few excellent sites where you can go and learn the software itself. A lot of times what I do when I'm trying to figure out a formula for a particular thing or what would make this easier is I go to shandu.org and I'll look up what's the best way to round to an even number or something like that, right? Because it takes a series of functions. I think it's called shandu.org.
So Jesse, what do you mean numbers on a Mac? Do you mean that's a good place to learn how to use spreadsheets, or do you have a question
Yeah.
about that?
And let me put this in the chat. CHANDOO.org is for the, oops, I'm not going to be able to spell this on my own phone, for the actual Excel classes and free tutorials.
Oh, right.
It's excellent for that. Oh yeah, Numbers is what it's called on a Mac. So there's 3 different spreadsheet softwares that you can use. Excel is Windows-based, Numbers is Apple-based, and then Sheets is an online through Google. Okay, so let's see. TLC Stitches says, I was lost in Sarah's course, so I thought I would need more spreadsheet basics. Yeah, and that is actually something that's kind of missing in our industry. And it would be great if someone could come up with a detailed course for knitwear designers. And if you know of one, or if you know of someone where you've gotten some help, you can throw it into the comments too and help us out. I haven't had a lot of time to research it lately, so I hope that this helps you get started. I hope that gives you...
I found for myself that a lot of what I do on Excel for work, it's taken me time to gather it all and learn it all. It's not like I learned it all right away. You know what I mean? It's stuff I've learned over like a long period of time that I've put things together. So I didn't, just don't be hard on yourself that you don't know everything right away, or feel that you can't get started on something because you don't know everything, because it's not true.
Right. Practice is everything with Excel. And the other thing is once you figure something out, make yourself a cheat sheet of formulas and what works for you. Jesse says, Faina Goberstein has a good Craftsy class on setting up spreadsheets for design. Fantastic. And I know she has a very excellent entry-level grading course that is very good too.
Says, not yarn specific, but I learned a lot of Excel skills through Lynda courses, Lynda.
And you have to figure out what works best for you and the way you think. Some people set up their spreadsheet where they go this way in the spreadsheet, vertically. Other people like to work horizontally, and it's personal preference. You have to find out what works best for you and your way of thinking, and then I would say just practice, 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 practice. And don't be afraid. What I did when I was first learning was I made a challenge for myself to learn 1 new function a week.
That's a great idea.
Well, until it became second nature.
Like a habit, and you knew it.
A habit, like a quick key, or figure out a formula, and where I didn't have to go look it up. And I just made myself a little challenge every week and put it in the sticky on my monitor. And so I would be able to look at it, and then as I advanced in my skills, it became second nature. So practice is everything.
like you said before, Sarah, there's always something new to learn, and there's always new formulas you're going to need to know. Oh, Julie says, great idea, Sarah. It is. So like, you're not going to know everything right away. You're not going to even know what you
Right.
need to know right away.
Mm-hmm.
You're not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, the Wi-Fi. Okay, jump in, Christina, with the next questions.
Yeah, why don't we move on to the next question? These are a couple of questions we found online that we wanted to address. Um, this first one is, I'm wondering if it's important to include a photo of the finished design in the pattern itself, since they've already seen it and bought the pattern, and they mean that they've already seen the picture like on the sales page of the pattern. I can see why it might provide a useful reference, but on the other hand, it will be more costly to print. Any thoughts?
Mm.
What do you think? I think that there should be a picture on the pattern. It doesn't, like, you don't have to have a whole photo spread. You don't have to have 50 million pictures on there if you're worried about people having to print these detailed, lengthy, enormous color pictures. I totally get that. Keep in mind a couple things. People can choose what they want to print. So as long as your pictures are not on a page with the knitting instructions on them, keep your pictures on a page that is not with the knitting instructions, or at least include one picture so they know while they're knitting what they need. I think it's a good idea, even if they don't print them, to have pictures on the pattern. That is what I think. At least one good one, Jesse. Yeah, I
At
agree.
least one.
There should be
And
something on the pattern because, okay, because if you don't have a picture on a pattern, right, the only way for you to know what the item is that you're making is for you to read through the whole pattern and figure out what it's going to look like, right? So not everybody's going to also buy your pattern, print your pattern, and knit it that day. They might keep it and do it later and not remember exactly what. I mean, I think there should be at least one good picture on the pattern. Oh, Sarah says, love that some designers offer both all photos and a printer friendly version. Little more work for us, but a nice option. It is a little more work, but it's a great idea. I mean, I have seen printer friendly versions of patterns that are like, you know, some 6-page sweater pattern that if you take out all the stuff that not every single, that only, that you don't need when you go to knit it, it's like a page. And that's great for printing purposes. Once you fill in your own sizing information, you don't need all the other numbers and you don't need all the pictures on a printer friendly version. So that's I'm glad you brought that up. Because that
the
can be
the
really cool.
the other thing that you need to also think about is that it's not your decision whether or not it's expensive or not for the knitter. Let them decide what they want to print and not print and just make it easy for them. So put the photos on all on one page so they can just choose not to print that page. Or maybe they want to. I have a lot of knitting friends who print everything with color. They love to have the big stack of paper with all the detailed pictures. So don't decide what's expensive and what's not or
And
whatever because
just as a knitter, depending on what the pattern is, I might print it if it's something I'm a little unsure about, that I want to be able to follow along the picture to see what I'm doing in the tricky bits or something like that. You know, I think patterns need to have pictures. I really do. Like I said, you don't
at
got to go
least
crazy,
one.
you know, yeah, but something to identify it, because otherwise the only way to know is to read through the whole thing. I agree, at
Exactly.
least one photo to remember what you're making. Yeah, seriously.
Hey, Melissa, I'm glad you're here because we were just talking about what a great tech editor you are.
Yeah, Ruth totally ratted you out that you said to round up. We're all three in agreement.
All right, so we have one last question for today.
Okay,
Um, do you think we covered that good enough?
I
Are we
think
ready to
so.
move
I'll
on?
read the
Okay.
question.
All right.
I have designed a crochet bobble blanket. It's basically a large graph. The only real instructions are how many to chain to begin. Do a single crochet chain at the end of each row and to follow the graph or chart. Do I need to have it tech edited? Since I'm a new designer and this is my first crochet design, I can't afford to pay for the tech editing. Are there folks that do the first one for free? I've heard that tech editing is quite expensive. First of all, we should say that we're not crochet tech editors, but a lot of the points in her question are applicable to any kind of tech editing.
We do have some crochet tech editors in our audience. So
Yep.
if you're looking for a good crochet tech editor, please let us know. I know Melissa does it. And if you do it and you're here today, please throw your information into the comments so that we can recommend you. Jumped in. I have my opinions and I will read them to you if you want.
So number one, I think, yes, it's important to get it tech edited, even if all it is a few lines of instruction, a graph, an abbreviation list, or a chart. Just because even if you're not having detailed instructions, there's a lot going on in a pattern that you might not realize that needs to be checked for clarity and accuracy that can be missed because it's your own work. And none of us can find mistakes in our own work. That's why tech editing is so important. That's why any editing of any kind of written anything, it's important. We don't see it. Yes,
I cannot see my own mistakes ever.
Tech editing can be expensive, and I appreciate that that's a concern. I mean, things that are expensive are a concern for me. Like, I still get it. There are tech editors who will like trade you, like you could write them a testimonial for their website, things like that they'll trade you to do an edit for you. And depending on what the pattern is, you might want to do that, or you might want to work with someone a little more experienced so that it doesn't take as long. And also remember that if it doesn't take as long, it's not going to cost as much, usually. Usually. I think it's important to have it tech edited. I get that it's expensive, and so maybe seek out newer tech editors who are willing to work for a little less to get their foot in the door, or who are willing to trade you for something else. But I wouldn't skip that step.
Yeah.
You've worked so hard on this pattern, and it's so important to you, and it's your baby, and it's great, and you want to sell it, and you want it to do well, and you want people to make it. So you want it to be the best it can be. So I would definitely get a tech edited and see if you can find somebody who would work with you on the cost.
Melissa says, definitely have it edited, if nothing else, for the peace of mind and confidence. And I want to comment on this specifically. When you work with a tech editor, because you have a second set of eyes that's trained to see mistakes and has maybe systems in place to find certain kinds of mistakes that you may not have thought of, what you come away with is, if you have a good relationship with your tech editor too, then you come away with more education about how to design even better, how to write better, how to be more consistent.
Not to interrupt you, but Julie said that she always learns so much from her tech editors, and she's never sad about the money spent on editing. Because
you're not just,
because you're getting more than like a correct pattern.
You're not just spending money for a service to find mistakes. You're actually working in collaboration with someone who's a professional, who their whole goal is to make your pattern fantastic and to help you. So on the one hand, it seems like it's a high expense and an investment, but you come away with the confidence that, hey, my pattern, as far as I know so far, doesn't have any errors, and it's going to improve your confidence in your own work and also help you with your future pattern writing.
Well, because like someone said here, it gives you a good reputation for putting out a good, clear pattern, and that's important too.
So the other aspect of this is that you have to also consider the cost of fixing mistakes later in an already published pattern. The cost of doing another upload, emailing all your buyers, all your customers, publishing errata, and what that does as a cost to your reputation of, oh, they publish patterns with mistakes in them.
And fielding a lot of pattern support questions if there's a lot of errors in here.
All the
time.
Even
if there's not a lot of errors, if there's one error that ends up tripping up every knitter, and they're all going to need help on it, that's just more work.
And maybe negative comments on your patterns in the pattern where people buy them. So you have to consider the cost in the pros and cons, not just in what you will pay for the service to the tech editor, but also down the line. What is it worth to me as a beginning designer and as a newer designer to have a pattern I'm confident in doesn't have any mistakes? So that's kind of our opinion. Yeah, we're a little bit biased because this is our job. But on the other hand, that's why we went into this job, is that we want patterns to not have mistakes. We love helping designers improve the trust between them and the knitter. So a
Right.
knitter trusts your work when you have a clear, concise, and correct pattern. So Melissa says crochet editing is similar to knit editing, but a few different areas to watch for mistakes. Exactly. I would never be able to edit crochet because I just don't have the skills there.
I
But
don't know
yes,
it well enough. I could never.
right.
I don't. But yeah, there's more at stake than just, oh, I think
Right.
I got all my errors on my pattern. I think it's easy. I don't think I need anything. There's so many things that could like cascade as a bad things as a result of it not being tech. All these knitters, and you want them to be happy. You want them to like your patterns, and like Sarah said, you want them to trust your patterns. And the you know, so that just to me makes tech editing like a necessary part of the design process that you want to have and plan on, plan ahead for. It's a deductible business expense, B says.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I'm back. I did I pause? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's actually good. This is better. Your video is better today than it has been some other times. I think it's
Oh,
great.
very good. Okay, so
Yeah.
the last point I want to make about this is I'm going to be kind of pushy and opinionated here. If you are a newer designer, you need to think about whether or not your business is a hobby or if it actually is a business. And if you are wanting to build a design business, then you need to also consider what kind of things are going to be a common expense. In tech editing, we realize is a higher expense, but it also is integral to publishing good patterns. So as you're making your business plan as a newer designer, then it's really smart to just go ahead and plan for this as part of your business expense. And it's okay to shop around for a tech editor that fits your budget. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't
No.
have to work with someone that you can't afford. So definitely do the legwork to figure out what works best for you and your business model and your business plan with the goal that you're going to produce the best pattern that's possible for you.
We have a couple
So,
comments, Sarah.
okay.
Goody Two Sticks says, "Oh yes, having a tech edit is so important." Jennifer says, "Beginner to advanced makers will and can tackle a well-written and thoughtful pattern. Realize broad audiences."
Yes. So that's the thing is remember that in your business you're curating an audience and you're curating customers who someday may be your super fan and want to buy all your patterns, every single one you put out, even if they never knit it. So this is a fantastic way to begin to build that trust between you and the knitter. And it starts with having a collaboration with a professional who who is on your side and is for you in every way to make your pattern the best it can be. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk about tech editing. Oh, I'm afraid we are quite opinionated about our own profession.
Well, we definitely think it's a step that shouldn't be skipped, for sure. For sure.
So do you guys have any other questions? Because that's everything that we found online
Yep.
and got
Questions that we received,
questions
Jesse.
are. Do you guys have any questions for us before we dash for the day? Thanks a lot, Jesse and Julie. We appreciate you guys
You
being
guys are
here.
awesome. We do. We really do appreciate you being here.
It's really fun to talk to you guys. And this means a lot to us.
They're laughing.
So we hope that our tech tip Q&As are a help to you. We will take any other questions between now and next month. So when's our next talk, Christina?
Our next one will, I think it's actually the same
Oh,
date.
that's
I
right.
looked at it. It's pretty funny.
March 15th, the
It's
Ides of
March.
March.
Yep, March 15th. So next one will be on March 15th. We will send out a newsletter the Friday before,
Mm-hmm.
which you want to get. So go to my bio and Sarah's bio and sign up for our newsletter. And next month and Monday, the 15th of March will be the next Q&A. So if you have any questions, send them to us any way that works for you. You can reply to that email, or you can message us or comment any way you want to get us a question.
So Jesse says it's helpful. I'm editing spreadsheets right now. Yeah. Oh, I know what that's like. Sometimes I have to step away and come back to editing.
We do take lots of breaks.
We take lots of breaks. Working on a spreadsheet can be very brain intensive.
Yeah, we take
So
breaks.
the other thing that we wanted to make sure that you knew about is Christine and I have written up a pre-edit pattern checklist. So this is the other thing we probably should have mentioned before, is that you can reduce the cost of your tech editing by doing a few checks in your own pattern before you send it to a tech editor. So if you go to our bios, we have a link to a free pattern checklist, and sign up for our newsletter there too. This is the checklist that we put together that we would use if we were designing.
Yeah,
so
things that you can check for before you send it off that will save you money. You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Sarah, because there is a tip I wanted to give that is not related to a question we got, but is kind of related to the checklist. When you're working with a tech editor and you have to send back a new copy because there were questions, or there were parts she couldn't continue, or just a new version from the corrections that you made, don't be trigger happy with your finger to press the send button. You know, take a minute. You know, I mean, don't take a week and have them be waiting for you, but don't be so anxious to press send. Take your time with it and look through it and make sure you've caught the corrections that they marked. Make sure that you've made decisions about things you had to figure out. Make sure that the changes that you made, you did them correctly. Make sure you didn't add new mistakes. Like double check any kind of mark that a tech editor gives you, any kind of correction. Make sure you're not making that mistake in other places too before you just send it. You know, take your time with it. Take a minute and make sure you've gotten it all. Because if you send it back, all these different versions that have mistakes every time, talk about costing you more money.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, take a minute. Take your time with it. Don't be so anxious to press send. That's all I want to say.
It's a good tip. I like it.
And get that checklist. Also, if you go get the checklist, it signs you up for the newsletter. You can sign up for the newsletter in the same place. So it's not like you have to do tons of clicking.
And the other thing is we're still working away on our book draft. I am working on the chapter on pattern components, like the things that need to be in a pattern. And Christine is working on writing blurbs about all the resources, book resources that we found useful.
This resources chapter, you guys, is kicking my butt. I've been doing it for a while. Because we also have questions. So all the questions that we got in all the Tech Tip Talks we've done, we are also writing those up in the book.
Yes.
So we're addressing a lot of things in this book.
And we're amplifying and adding and writing more.
Right. And every chapter that we're working on, based on the talks we gave, have all these questions too. So I'm pretty excited about it. I really am. I think it's going to be great.
I get excited when I'm writing. When I'm coming to the writing, not so excited because it's hard work.
It is hard work. It is hard work.
Sarah says, I finally printed that list and went back through all my previous errors and added those to the list. Oh, that is so smart. And that's how I came up with my tech editing list, was all the mistakes I missed.
Right.
So, yes.
Julie says she's so excited for the book.
Yeah, we're excited too. We can't wait to see what it looks like.
We're so excited. We are so excited, but it is such hard work. Like, as you all know, it's very hard work. So
writing a book is like birthing a baby. It takes a long time and is a lot of work.
There's a slog. Sarah, that is an awesome idea.
Sarah, kudos to you.